Hello? Is it? Okay, I'll get ready. I think this is the most excited I have been for spring probably ever. I think in the past I have really struggled to connect to spring as a season because the version of spring that I would see online, other people's version of spring, was just so sunny and blue skies and looked so warm, and that is just not the reality for us in the UK. But then I thought, wait a minute, moody weather is actually my favourite kind of weather, so why can't I just celebrate that in the springtime as well? Because spring here can be moody and gothic, and there's lots of morning mist lingering on the hills and loads of rainstorms, and we have that very specific type of weather that you only get in the spring, where the sky is split in half and half of it is bright blue and sunny and the other half is filled with dark and heavy rain clouds. They actually look purple in the sky because the sun's lighting them up, and you can see the rain rolling in from the distance, and all of the flowers in the trees are lit up and like glowing against the backdrop of these dark purple clouds, and the world just looks absolutely magical, and that only happens because we get both types of weather in spring. So this spring I am fully leaning into it and celebrating the rain and the sunshine. So the first thing that I like to do at the start of any new season is head over to Pinterest and make a mood board. Duh. I like to do this to capture how I want this season to feel, what kind of outfits I want to wear, and what hobbies and activities I want to do. So at the start of the year, I decided to allocate one hobby per season. I often find that throughout the year there's a million things that I want to do, and then it just becomes so paralysing that I don't end up doing any of them, or I'll try something new one time and then feel like I have to immediately move on to the next thing in order to fit them all in. So this year I've chosen 4 hobbies that I really want to build into my life, and I'll be focusing on just one per season. So that way I'll have a chance to really practice and get good at each one, with the aim that it will just become a routine part of life, and then the next season's hobby can get layered on top of it instead of replacing it. So in spring, the hobby that I've chosen is gardening. I feel like that is the most appropriate spring hobby. So obviously in the most literal way, I will be tending to my garden, planting flowers, maybe doing some landscaping. And then in the evenings or on rainy days, I can research and learn all about how to care for my plants, or just do some nature studies. And if I want to get out of the house, I can do trips to the garden centre, or if I want some more inspiration, I could do trips to different botanical gardens. Okay, so I've been looking through the mood board that I put together last year for spring, and I actually think the vibes that I want this year are pretty much exactly the same. I've just layered on top some like extra sort of moody images, and we're going very like cottagecore meets light academia this spring. Like I said, I want to be going to botanical gardens and National Trust houses, stately homes, old castles, ruins, wandering around in like a floral gown. That is the vibe that we want this year. So I have filled my mood board with pictures like that, as well as just some cute gardening pictures, some botanical sketches and studies, and just a few pretty plants as well. Okay, so now we have the vibes for spring all put together. I have put it all into one mood board for you so you can see the spring vision. I used to do mood boards a lot more often, and then I'd change it out on my laptop, wallpaper and everything every season. But more and more lately, I've just preferred to have my one yearly vision board on my laptop. And then what I do with my seasonal mood boards is I have little widgets on my phone and things that are like dotted throughout the different screens. And then I'll just set that to that season's mood board. And I think the picture refreshes every hour or so. So then throughout the day, I get to see all my pictures cycling through and give me little doses of dopamine, serotonin, something happy, little doses of happiness throughout the day and inspiration as well. So I thought I would share with you all the things that I want to do this season to hopefully give you some ideas for your own whimsical spring, and then you can let me know in the comments what you're doing this season, and then that'll hopefully give me even more ideas for my own spring. Yeah, okay. My list this spring is very focused on gardening to help me to focus on that hobby, as well as ideas that will just inspire me to spend more time outside in the spring weather in the most whimsical way, of course. Okay, so without further ado, here is my 2026 spring bucket list. Okay, so first of all, we have plant flowers, of course. I'd also really like to visit a butterfly sanctuary, and I think that can probably be tied in with going to a botanical garden. I feel like a lot of the times butterfly sanctuaries are gardens in and of themselves, aren't they? I want to bake hot cross buns. I'll probably do that on Easter weekend. Go for a picnic. I want to go to a tulip field and take some really nice photos in a really pretty dress. And then I want to buy a new plant that I've never had before and then learn all about how to care for it and really focus on it and not, just buy it and then it dies and then that's the end of that. I really want to actually learn about the plants that I have and be able to keep them alive for a long time, hopefully. I want to go and explore a castle in a whimsical gown and stroll through botanical gardens, again, probably in a whimsical gown, spend the day in a picturesque village. Again, let's just imagine we're doing everything in a whimsical gown, okay? We've got go to the garden centre. I want to read outside. I want to find a vintage bike because I think one of my hobbies for summer is going to be going on really cute little bike rides. So I want to I'll put some pictures on the screen. I want to get a really cute vintage bike with a little basket on it. So I think that's going to be one of my bucket list items for this season, is to find the perfect bike. I want to read or journal in an independent cafe. I want to drive with the windows down and feel the warm spring air. I want to eat an Easter egg, of course. Spend the day at a National Trust house. I want to eat breakfast outside, I think on like the first day that it's warm enough this year. I want to wear flowers in my hair. Spend the day in a pretty floral dress just because. I want to run through the rain with some wellies on, preferably wellies, like floral wellies, but my regular black ones will do if I can't find any floral wellies. I want to run about and jump in puddles because in spring it's getting warmer, so you can actually have fun in the rain without getting absolutely freezing cold. So I just want to feel like a kid again and just enjoy it. I want to take a wicker basket to a farmer's market, again, probably in a nice floral dress, and wander about and just see what there is and bring some really tasty things home. I want to bake with lavender. That feels very springy to me. Lavender is my like food and drink sort of theme for spring, and then I go into like a lemon theme in summer. I want like lemon cake, lemonade, everything lemon, and spring is very lavendery, but I've never actually made anything myself with lavender, so that's a big goal for me this season. And then similarly, I want to bring edible flowers into the kitchen. I think I'd like to start getting some growing in the garden, start planting some, and then learn about how to bake with them. I'll probably just be like sticking them on cakes and like putting them in drinks to start with, but I thought maybe you could like freeze some into ice cubes. That'd be really cool. So yeah, I want to start experimenting with edible flowers. And then my last thing is just simply to thrift some spring home decor. Okay, so today we're going to do my favourite thing to do at the start of any new season, and that is redecorate and reorganise my bookshelves. Now, because I'm a seasonal reader, the only real sort of structure I have on here is just to have books grouped into the seasons that I like to read them in. And then at the start of the season, I just kind of rotate through the shelves and bring up the books from that season into the top and sort of highlight them. So for example, this is the way I had my shelves for February. So I pulled books up here that are either particularly romantic or this is actually just an Oxford Library of words and phrases, but because it's red, I felt like it went with the Valentine's Day theme, so that made it onto my top shelf. But obviously today we are making the shelves very springy, so these will all be coming off. I do, however, want to do something a little bit different this season, so let me take you down to my other bookshelf. So this little shelf down here is currently where I house all of the books that I bought and read in my teenage years, which has been quite nice having them all separate and together like this because I don't so often read these ones now. But what I think I want to do, because I've acquired quite a big unread physical TBR, I quite like to have a separate place to store those books. So I think I'm going to turn this shelf into my whole TBR shelf. I did used to just have them in a separate pile, but that was back when I only had 3 or 4 books at a time on my physical TBR, and now there is a lot more, and I just don't like to put them on my big bookshelf until I've sort of read them and know that I like them, and then they get the official stamp of approval and go onto the shelves. But like I said, I've got a few too many now to just have them in a pile, so I think I'll be bringing them all over here instead and then putting these books onto my big shelves. So I'm going to start by just pulling all the books off both bookcases, and then we'll just have a little tinker. We'll just play around and find a good layout. This shelf I think I quite like exactly as it is, and it's already pretty springy, so I think I'm just going to move this up a shelf and keep the layout exactly the same. Okay, so I pulled out all of my favourite books to read in spring and popped them up on the top shelf, ready to be nicely laid out. But I thought I would just run through them all quickly with you. So, first of all, obviously, we have Pride and Prejudice. I just feel like this is a spring staple. There is no better time to read this book. And then I'm going to leave Once Upon a Broken Heart up here. This was up here for February because obviously it's very appropriate for Love Month. But it's also quite a fairy tale-esque fantasy book, and I just feel like fairy tales are perfect for springtime. Next, I have The Anatomy and Immortality duology. These I did find a little bit tricky to categorise seasonally because instinctually I'd put them in autumn because they are a little bit more gothic-y, dark academia sort of books. But I do think it could also translate into like the gothic spring vibes, and because of the love story and it feels a little bit light-hearted, at least to me anyway, so I'm leaving these out for spring. Okay, next we have a book from my childhood, which is The Princess Bride. This book is so magical and I would recommend anyone to read it. I would, however, recommend that you buy an abridged version. This is abridged, which just means some things have been taken out of it. And in this particular edition, this is the good parts version, abridged by William Goldman. And anywhere that he has cut elements out, he kind of summarises what he's taken out and why. For instance, in the original book, there was apparently a section where there was 30 days and nights of parties, and every single one was described down to the most minute details about what all the decorations were and what all the food was and what everyone was wearing and what the dances were, which sounds lovely, but apparently it was a very big chunk of the book going into all this description and absolutely nothing happened to move the plot forwards. So that's one of the things that he's taken out. And there's just a note to say there was 30 days of parties, and then you jump back into the book. So I do think the abridged version would save you a lot of time to read. But yes, I would definitely recommend The Princess Bride. Okay, then we have another one of my favourites, which is A Natural History of Dragons, which is the first book in the Memoir by Lady Trent series. This is set in the Regency era, which for me is my favourite era to read about during spring, but obviously it's got fantasy elements in it. There's dragons in this world, and the lady, our main character, wants to study dragons and become a dragon naturalist, so she goes off on a big adventure to begin her studies, which is very, very fun to read about. Then we have The Rose Bargain, which is kind of like Bridgerton with trials and fae, and it's very cool. I think the second book is actually coming out this year, I think, which I'm very excited to read. And then the last three, I have Belladonna, which is quite gothic-y as well, but I do feel like is suited to springtime gothic. Then we have My Lady Jane, which I read for the first time last year because I watched the series on Amazon Prime and I absolutely loved it. I can't believe it didn't get picked up for a second season. I thought it was really cool. So I bought the book so that I could explore the world and stay in it a little bit longer. I think maybe the series was a tiny bit better than the book. I'm not sure, but I did really like it. And then we have one of my favourite books of all time, Rebecca. I love this book so much. It was the first book I did when I did a 24-hour reading challenge and read this entire thing in 24 hours, which was such a lovely, memorable experience to have as my first read of this book. And this to me is perfectly situated as a spring read, as a light academia sort of gothic, sort of creepy, but in a light sunshine springish way kind of read. So I think out of all of these books, this is the one that I would recommend to you the most. blinded by the sun ever so slightly, which does feel kind of wonderful to say after the winter that we've had. So, moving back to my small bookshelves, I was actually going to have a shelf on here dedicated to my poetry books, which I still might do, but for now I've popped them over there because I sort of had half a shelf empty that they filled out nicely. And my pile of books that I haven't read yet is quite a bit bigger than I thought it was going to be. So let's just get these away on these shelves. To be honest though, it's probably only going to take up one shelf. Let's see how we get on with it. Okay, so we filled this shelf up, and then I'm going to use the top shelf for books that I specifically want to read in spring. So these are all the books that I've had left over from probably last year that I wanted to read in spring and didn't. So first of all, I've got The Crimson Moth, which I'm not actually sure if this is appropriate for spring, but it feels like it might be to me. So we'll pop that on there. Okay, so then we've got The Tropic of Serpents, which is the next book to the Natural History of Dragons. It's the sequel, so you can go up there. Then in the realm of classics, I've got Persuasion. I've just realised I've actually got 2 copies of Persuasion, so I think I might put this slightly prettier one up on the top shelf and then put this one in here to actually read. So Persuasion can go there. Then we've got Sense and Sensibility and Georgette Hare, Venetia. This is going to be my first Georgette Hare book that I'm reading, and I'm very excited. And then the books that I have bought this month to read this month. The Swan's Daughter. This one could have gone either way for me because it's got swans in it. It could have been a winter read, but because it feels very fairy tale-esque, it tipped it over into spring for me, and it's one of the rare books that I've made the exception for and bought it in hardback because I just really wanted to read it, and I couldn't wait for it to come out in paperback. So I've got The Swan's Daughter, and I've also got The Secret Garden because I feel like I read this or had this read to me as a child, but I really can't remember much of the story at all. And it's obviously a perfect spring book. So I've got this one for this month as well. And then the book that I'm currently in the middle of is Never by Jessa Hastings. In about a day, I've gotten through half of it. There's something about Jessa Hastings' writing that I absolutely love. I inhale it. The first book of hers that I read was The Conditions of Will, and I could not put that down. That was a 5-star read for me, and this is well on its way to being a 5-star read. It's so magical, it's so whimsical. Her writing just, it speaks to me. I feel like she says so much in such an eloquent way, and you can tell that there's so much wisdom and real life experience like packed into every single sentence. I need your advice though, actually, because I haven't read the Magnolia Parks series and I wasn't sure that I wanted to, because from my understanding it's like if Gossip Girl was set in England, which I did kind of like Gossip Girl. I've never finished it, but I just wasn't sure that I wanted to read a book series about like super toxic relationships and characters. So I haven't read it yet, but obviously that's also by Jessa Hastings, so I'm wondering whether I should, whether I'm missing out, whether it is really, really good, or whether I should just wait for her to write something else and just read that instead. So if you read Magnolia Parks, definitely let me know what you think and if you think I should read it or not. So I don't think it's worth me putting this on here because I'm sure I'll probably finish this today or tomorrow and I can't put it down, so I'm going to leave that on my reading chair. So I've actually ended up with a bit more space than what I thought I was going to do. So I'm tempted to maybe move these down to the bottom shelf because a lot of these books are autumn winter books and I maybe don't want them to be like quite so visible to your eye line, so I might move them down a shelf and then maybe toy with the idea of actually putting my poetry back on here. Okay, I'm gonna start with moving these because I know I want to do that. Okay, so I am feeling a lot more ready for spring now, and I hope you are too. It snowed while I was making this spring video in Shetland, so I think the spring weather is not going to be here for a while, but that's okay. I am just getting ready and getting excited for spring. I also finished this book, and side note, the clouds move so fast here that the light is going to change really quickly, and I hope that's not annoying if it keeps going light and dark and light and dark. We're just gonna have to roll with it. But yes, I finished this book while I was filming this video as well, and it was a 5-star read for me. I don't know what magic Jessa Hastings puts in her books, but I just absolutely inhale them, consume them, cannot put them down. I need somebody to talk to about this, so if you read this book, let me know, or if you just want me to make a whole separate video on it, let me know, because I have so many thoughts. It is a 5-star read. 1, because of how much I enjoyed it, and 2, because of just the intensity of my feelings for this book. Like, there was there were some things that not that I didn't like, but that I just had really, really strong feelings about, and the way that it ended, if you know, you know. I feel like we got to like, maybe like this far from the end and new things started happening, and I was thinking, how are we gonna wrap this up so close to the end when we're just like introducing new, potentially really big plot points? And then the way it ended so abruptly, it sent my head spinning, and it put me into a reading slump because I just wanted to read. I wanted to carry on reading this story because it didn't feel like it was finished. And I do feel like she's supposed to be writing a sequel, but I'm sure it says online that it was going to be released at the end of 2025, and obviously we didn't get anything. So I'm really hoping that she is still going to write the sequel to this, because I need to stay in this world for longer. I need to find out what is going to happen. And like, I never liked Peter Pan anyway. I always just think he annoyed me. Like, I enjoyed watching all of the various Peter Pan films, but I feel like the actual character of Peter Pan I never really liked. He always kind of annoyed me, and this I feel like kind of put into words exactly everything that I don't like about Peter Pan. Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this book. And so it's a 5-star because I liked it, and it elicited such a strong reaction in me. So yeah, I don't know, come and talk to me if you read this book as well and you also have a lot of feelings and you also want to chat about it. But if you want me to make like a dedicated video talking about this book, I will also do that. Let me know. So yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do give it a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe if you did enjoy it, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye!